I'm from Europa ICTS in Brussels, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our small session called Have Your Say on AI at the Workplace and Collective Bargaining Practices on AI in the European Services Sector. Together with my colleague Oliver Philipp here, to my left, from the FES Competence Centre on the Future of Work, we would like to share with you the findings of a joint project that we've run that is looking at AI and collective bargaining in Europe. And our objective is twofold. First of all, we want to raise awareness among workers and trade unions about AI systems used at work. And second, we would like to empower people to negotiate on topics related to AI at the workplace to find concrete solutions. So I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers today. We have Steve Rowe from the Digital Futures at Work Research Centre of the University of Sussex. He will present a report on the prevalence and functioning of specific AI systems used in the European services sector. And our second speaker, who will join us online today, is Marta Karančová, the founder and managing director of the Central European Labour Studies Institute in Bratislava. Marta will share some examples of good practice that she's identified for collective bargaining on AI. And our third speaker here is Giovanni Soriano, Works Counsel at company level at the Deutsche Telekom AG, and he will present a very concrete, good example of a piece of collective bargaining effort on AI called the AI Manifesto at Deutsche Telekom. Following this input, we will have time for questions and discussions. And not to waste any more of your time, we will immediately go into the presentation mode. And I'm very pleased to have Steve now taking the floor as our first speaker. Steve, over to you.
Bitte schön, Steve. Anscheinend ist das Mikrofon nicht an. Ich höre ihn überhaupt nicht mehr. Es tut mir leid. Er ist nicht zu hören.
That I'm telling here, and much more about managers using AI and algorithmic management systems and technologies to support them in conducting the core functions of management. So coordinating, directing, evaluating, and disciplining workers. If anything, it's the managerial side rather than the labor side that's being automated, at least partially, by the new technological systems that I look at in the report. So in the report, I try to map how these technologies, where they've come from, how they're being boosted by big data analysis methods, machine learning, and also the corporate concentration of computational technologies that's taken place over the past 2 decades. And then specifically, I look at how these technologies are not only standalone tools, but are increasingly being incorporated by bigger enterprise software providers into the kinds of enterprise resource planning software, customer relations management software, and so on, that's been in use by big corporates for many decades for planning, HRM purposes, and others. How these are bringing into their systems AI and algorithmic management tools in new ways. And then I identify 4 clear risks that stem from the use of AAMS to workers. So, just to give you a flavor of one of the tools that I look at, which is Salesforce. Salesforce is a customer relationship management software. It also has a lot of HRM functions that managers can use and has done for some time. But it's increasingly integrating AI and algorithmic management functions into the package that it offers to employers. So Salesforce is, for those of you who don't know, is a really big piece of software that's used by sales-based companies to manage their sales workers, basically, and their relationships with their customers. It has something like 150,000 firms using its software, around about a quarter of the global CRM software market. So it's a really big deal. It does things like streamlining and partially automating business flows, assigning tasks to particular workers. It gives also managers increasingly extensive data, both at the team level, but also at the individual level of workers, and also is beginning to integrate algorithmic management technologies into its functionality. So what does this look like? It's a little tricky for you to see the screen, unfortunately, or at least for me at the back. You may be able to see a little better at the front here. But this is basically the display screen that a manager would see when they open up Salesforce. It has over on the left there several different workers. And I'll just draw your attention to the first column, which you may or not be able to read, but which is an Einstein prediction score for how many sales that a particular worker is algorithmically calculated to be able to make in any particular quarter. So for this particular worker here that's highlighted, it's $628,000. The figure's arbitrary, but the point is this Einstein prediction of that score is derived from gathering data across a wide range of different metrics that are not at all visible to the worker themselves, and also not necessarily visible to managers either. So where is this score coming from? Well, it's coming from a different, as I said, a wide range of metrics that are now being gathered by Salesforce on individual workers. So here we have things like, up in the center, current sales contests, how many sales have been made by individual workers so far this quarter. We have different kinds of closed business, whether they're new companies or old clients and so on. We have which individual workers have deals in the pipeline and so on. So quite granular detail about the forecasts that individual sales workers are expected to make in the current quarter. And this goes even deeper. So another screen, this is a KPI screen from Salesforce. This shows you up here the margin rate by individual sales reps, so basically what profit margin are individual sales workers making on average by their sales. We have, again, granular detail on the kinds of pipeline of sales that are expected to be made by individual workers. And we also have, interestingly over here, neglected accounts. So which customer accounts are being ignored by your sales workers, and then a picture and a name of which sales worker is responsible for that neglect in the bottom right. So that's Salesforce, and those are some of the functions that it has. But what's interesting is that Salesforce has an app exchange, just like your iPhone has an app store, and you can build additional functionalities into it through third-party software suppliers to go even deeper into what your employees are doing, what kinds of functionalities you can build on top of it. 1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay, so ActiveTrack is one example of a third-party piece of software that you can integrate into Salesforce. And this gives you incredibly detailed activity logs for individual users. So here, I don't know if you can read it, but you'll see this user took a social media break at 10:21 a.m., was using a printer, I don't know why, at 2:05 a.m., for example, was browsing in incognito mode at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. So extremely granular detail about what your employees are doing when they're using this software. And again, this pulling all these varied data points together from the KPIs in Salesforce to this sort of extremely invasive surveillance software that things like ActiveTrack provide, you can generate, again, algorithmically and using machine learning and so on, sort of productivity scores. So this is just one example. How many productive hours per day does this individual employee have? It's 7. That's how many hours this software at least deems that this individual worker is on task and fulfilling productive activities. So we can talk about all the manifold issues with this kind of example in the Q&A, but I'll just offer you a bit of evidence so you have a conception of what these things look like. Thanks very much, and I'll hand over to the next speaker.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. All right, yes, thanks a lot. This is interesting and scary at the same time, I would like to say. Keep your questions for later, please. And also for those of you joining online, you're more than welcome to put your questions into the chat. Our next speaker is Marta, who's already there online. Welcome, Marta. And just a quick question. Marta is going to share her own slides, or I see it here already. So I think, Marta, it's up to you. We have the presentation here, and you just let us know when you need the next slide. So over to you, Marta.
Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon. Now I'm also sharing, so I don't know how it's technically set, but this way I can see the slides better, so I hope it's okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to say a few words or a brief presentation on the report that we did with a team of authors, and that is published by Stiftung, and we have looked at how collective bargaining practices in algorithmic management and artificial intelligence occurs or is emerging in the European services sectors. We wanted to understand the challenges that are emerging in collective bargaining in relation to increased use of AI in managing workers and the workforce. And we also implemented a survey among union members in the services sector to summarize the expected union action to develop bargaining on topics related to AI. And so I would like to share with you some of the outcomes of the survey. In addition, we analyzed collective agreements where that already have some stipulations on AI and algorithmic management, and that can help us in identifying some good practices that are already one step ahead of other collective agreements. So for sharing the details of the survey, let me just say that we asked the trade unions in the services sector about whether they are interested or what is their current involvement in bargaining on AI-related topics. And as we see, our first row shows that about 62% of the surveyed unions say that the use of AI is an important topic for them in collective bargaining. And we also see that the lowest bar shows that there is not much initiative coming from the employers to introduce AI-related topics to collective bargaining. So the unions want to bargain, they want to approach these topics in bargaining. It's still not as developed as other topics. The unions are starting to come up with initiatives on integrating AI-related topics. And what do we mean by AI-related topics? We have clustered them in three clusters. First of all, relate to using AI in the recruitment process, so screening CVs, automatic systems, background checks of the candidates. Then we looked at AI tools used in the surveillance, in the assessment of workers' performance, so tracking workers' activities, reading their emails, assessing their performance and outputs against some benchmarks, and also customer ratings. And finally, AI can be used in the actual work organization and decision-making about shifts, about team allocation, allocating tasks to workers, and so on. So this is the basket of topics that we understand under AI, and we questioned how unions pick this up in collective bargaining. The current state of bargaining on AI-related topics is quite underdeveloped still, and if bargaining happens, it centers around data protection and privacy of workers and the right to disconnect. The unions want to bargain on more of these topics, for example, on the issues of challenging automated decision-making or the workers' right to be informed about how the algorithm works. And finally, the least relevant topics where unions in our survey did not show extensive interest to bargain about relate to matters like checking employees' emails or systems for generating automated responses like chatbots instead of human labor, or some analytics of voices. So very, very detailed stipulations related to how the work is being performed. When we look at the actual content of collective agreements, we have analyzed 30 of these agreements currently in Europe that have some stipulations that relate to AI algorithmic management. And most of them, over 75%, which means 22 agreements, provide stipulations on training for employees on using the AI tools. Another category that was found in the collective agreements related to consulting the trade union if new technologies are being introduced, and also the impact of these new technologies on the working time and the workers' right to disconnect. In the report, there is, of course, much more detail. This is just a teaser, just a selection for those who are interested. And we also provide specific examples of some collective agreements that do have some more detailed stipulations. Here, I'm listing just 3 of them. For example, a German example from a collective agreement which has extensive regulation of various AI-related topics, or an agreement in Finland that stipulates that a working group is created to discuss the use of AI-related topics or AI-related tools at the workplace, or a Norwegian agreement that we have analyzed that stipulates how AI is used at the workplace while guaranteeing employee privacy and involvement of workers' representatives. So the report offers much more than this, and I would like to stop here and invite everyone to download and read the full report if you are interested. Thank you for your attention, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta, for these very good insights and an overview. So please feel free to download the report and save your questions for later. Again, I would like to hand over now to Giovanni for our third presentation.
Ja, vielen Dank für die Möglichkeit, hier euch das KI-Manifest der Deutschen Telekom vorzustellen. Und ich gehe direkt aufs Konkrete. Und zwar, das sind 3 Bestandteile dieses KI-Manifestes. Nämlich als erstes haben wir eine Charta der Prinzipien vereinbart. Dann haben wir einen KI-Expertenkreis, der paritätisch besetzt ist, auch ins Leben gerufen. Und das Ziel ist, KI in Risikoklassen zu definieren und zu unterteilen, damit wir dann auch dementsprechend mit den Möglichkeiten, dass wir haben über die Mitbestimmung, auch hier eine klare Transparenz haben, welche KI-Anwendungen genutzt werden und welche Risiken für Beschäftigte da sich daraus resultieren. Vielleicht zuerst zu den Prinzipien. Ich gehe nicht auf jeden Einzelnen ein, aber vielleicht das erste Aspekt. Es war uns unheimlich wichtig, dass immer bei der Interaktion Mensch-Maschine, das heißt immer dort, wo unsere Beschäftigten mit entsprechend KI-Anwendungen, Chatbots, andere Technologien, die da jetzt auch noch weiterkommen, immer die Transparenz besteht, dass das genau eben eine Mensch-Maschine-Interaktion ist. Des Weiteren war uns wichtig, und das hat sich dann auch parallel zu unseren Verhandlungen ja auch in der Darstellung des EU AI Act, was jetzt auch in die Verordnung, die in Europa entsprechend gilt und auch ins Deutsche übernommen wird, ist die wesentliche Tatsache, dass immer dann, wenn es für Beschäftigten eine hohe Relevanz hat, die Entscheidung, die eine Maschine, ich nehme immer das Wort Maschine, also wundert euch nicht, weil letztendlich ist das so ein bisschen die Trennung, die Klarheit dabei, eine Empfehlung ausspricht, muss immer der Mensch am Ende diese Entscheidung treffen, wenn es eine hohe Relevanz hat für Beschäftigte. Das heißt, an dem praktischen Beispiel, wir haben zurzeit eine Pilotierung und auch einen Teil davon noch schon im Wirkbetrieb, das Thema Eightfold. Das ist ein Dienstleister, was ermöglicht beim Recruiting, beim Skill- und Ressourcenmanagement ein Matching durchzuführen. Ihr könnt euch das so vorstellen, ihr ladet als Bewerber eure CV hoch, also euer Lebenslauf, und die Maschine erkennt automatisch, welche Skills ihr habt und matcht das mit den offenen Stellen, die es gibt. Ihr könnt sogar LinkedIn-Profile mitverbinden, also sehr auf das Thema, wie finde ich die Talente, die ich für die Stelle benötige. Und da in diesem Matching ist es wichtig, dass am Ende das nur ein Vorschlag ist, und zwar, dass der Recruiter und die einstellende Kraft dann die Entscheidung trifft. Das mal als praktisches Beispiel. Dann gehe ich hier zum letzten, und zwar das Thema, inwieweit kriegen wir KI-Anwendungen, die vielleicht die Möglichkeit geben, eben den Menschen zu analysieren, welche Charaktereigenschaften hat der oder diejenige. Wir haben auch hier eine Anwendung, die jetzt an der Grenze zu diesem Aspekt gekommen ist, nämlich Retorio. Da geht es darum, dass unsere Kollegen die Möglichkeit haben, mit eben einem Avatar Verkaufsgespräche durchzuführen. Und am Ende bekommen sie persönlich eine Analyse ihres Gespräches. Zu schnell, zu langsam, verständlich, nicht verständlich, und wie wirke ich auf den anderen. So, und da hatten wir uns erstmal schon im KI-Expertenkreis darüber uns Gedanken gemacht, ist das schon Emotionsanalyse oder nicht? In dem Fall haben wir entschieden, ist es nicht. Und entsprechend der dann jetzt Verordnung, die es gibt, passt das unsere Entscheidung. Aber man kann in Zukunft sicherlich auch bei Einstellungen KI-Anwendungen finden, die schon Analysen machen, inwieweit der oder diejenige eben loyal ist etc. Also ich könnte euch vorstellen, was da alles möglich ist. Das findet bei uns nicht statt. Und jetzt zum KI-Expertenkreis, der besteht paritätisch, sowohl arbeitgeberseitig wie arbeitnehmerseitig. Und wir haben uns entsprechend vereinbart, dass es zu einer Einigung kommen muss, wenn es da Streitfragen gibt in der Fragestellung, soll diese KI-Anwendung oder diese Technologie bei uns eingesetzt werden oder nicht. Wir haben uns dann herangerobbt, wir haben 5 bereits existierende KI-Anwendungen analysiert und daraus haben wir gelernt, sodass wir jetzt in der Phase sind, dass wir in unsere vorhandenen Konzernbetriebsvereinbarung im Umgang mit Mitbestimmung bei IT-Systemen auch die Kritikalitätsstufen eben eingeführt haben. Wir sind zurzeit auch noch da in Textform unterwegs, aber das ist soweit auch schon auf dem Weg. Was sind denn diese Risikoklassen? Wie kann man das machen? Wir haben da auch Unterstützung durch das EU AI Act, weil wir schon 2, also zumindest die erste oben klar definiert haben, nämlich verbotene KI-Anwendung. Da muss sich auch die Telekom dran halten, also auch der Arbeitgeber. Von daher ist das eben da auch in leichten Rosa. Dann folgen 3, die wir besonders auch in der Mitbestimmung betrachten müssen. Und die untere, die auch in rosa dargestellt ist, das sind KI-Anwendungen, wo keine Beschäftigtendaten eben verarbeitet werden. So, da haben wir gesagt, da brauchen wir uns nicht drum kümmern, dann bleiben 3 übrig. Auch im Rahmen des EU AI Act ist klar geworden, was sind denn Hochrisikoanwendungen? So, wenn das der Fall ist, dass diese dort beschriebenen KI-Anwendungen, die unter Hochrisiko zu bezeichnen sind, bei uns eingeführt werden sollen, dann bedarf es neben dem normalen Prozess auch der IT-Mitbestimmung auch die Einbindung dieses KI-Expertenkreises. Und vielleicht an der Stelle noch erwähnt, da sitzen nicht nur Kollegen, die die IT, ich sag mal, verstehen und dementsprechend aus dem Bereich kommen, sondern wir haben auch an so Fragestellungen wie Ethik, wie viele andere Aspekte, denn die KI-Einführung in der Arbeitsumgebung hat mehrere Kompetenzen notwendig. Das ist also ein wichtiger Aspekt. Ja, dann gibt es eben die KI-Anwendungen, die neben dem, was wir schon geregelt haben, zum Thema Datenschutz, Beschäftigtendaten, Leistungsverhaltenskontrolle etc. in der Konzernbetriebsvereinbarung IT-Systeme eben weiteren Regelungsbedarf haben. Das ist dann eben die entsprechende 3. Kategorie. Und die 4. sind eben KI-Anwendungen, wo Beschäftigtendaten genutzt werden, aber es sind eher Daten, die Login zum Beispiel in Systemen dokumentieren, die aber keine Filtermöglichkeiten, keine weitere, ich sag mal, Gefährdung der Beschäftigtenrechte mit sich bringen. Das ist in einer Kürze jetzt gewesen, aber am Ende, glaube ich, müssen wir Folgendes beachten. Und Stephen Hawking hat das ganz gut eigentlich formuliert. KI ist wahrscheinlich das Beste oder das Schlimmste, was der Menschheit passieren kann. Also hängt es von uns ab, wie wir auch im Betrieb die Anwendung von KI gestalten. Das muss einfach in jedem Unternehmen stattfinden, weil KI wird sich überall wiederfinden und zum Teil nutzen wir das alle auch schon privat, ohne dass wir vielleicht drüber nachdenken.
Ganz, ganz herzlichen Dank dir, Giovanni. Und damit leite ich über zu Oliver, der ein paar Fragen vorbereitet hat, vielleicht an unsere Referenten innen. Und danach ist der Flur offen, wie man eigentlich jetzt auf Englisch sagen würde, für andere Fragen. So actually handing over to Oliver, and then as you see we have interpretation online. Feel free to ask a question in English. If ever you don't feel like it, you can ask in German, and we can translate for the speakers if necessary.
Yes, thank you, Bertha, and also, welcome from my side. As Bertha said, my name is Oliver Philipp, and I'm working for the FES Competence Centre, Future of Work in Brussels, and I have now the pleasure to introduce to you the Q&A part. Or better, to do with you together the Q&A part. So if you have any questions to Marta, to Steve, or Giovanni, then now it's the opportunity to ask these questions. And maybe to give you a bit of time for thinking, I would like to start with one question to Marta, actually, to maybe go one step back. So in your opinion, Marta, what do you think, what's new in collective bargaining on AI at the workplace? So why do these changes now deserve special attention? Because historically, trade unions have already negotiated over new technologies. That's not new. So what's new about artificial intelligence and collective bargaining?
Thank you very much, Oliver, for the question. And indeed, as you say, collective bargaining is a very long-term process, or it has been established since many years, and it always builds on the previous expertise. So also education, learning, new technologies has already been there in many countries, but not in all of them. And in the countries where collective bargaining is not as institutionalized as we know from Northern Europe or from Germany to some extent, it's very important to create some possibilities to strengthen bargaining, introducing topics that were not addressed before. And also our research shows that the AI-related topics are not yet as common as other topics like working time issues or job protection or wages, of course. So it creates an opportunity. And as the workplaces are changing, the power relations are changing between management and workers, it is important to talk about these things and to regulate them. And the fact that the human element is being questioned or contested in some of these algorithmic decisions itself is something that creates some information asymmetry. The workers want to see more transparency in this. So this creates opportunities or specific opportunities that are maybe slightly different or modified from earlier attempts to discuss technological changes. So it's a topic that opens new opportunities to strengthen collective bargaining.
Thank you, Marta. Yeah, I think it's an important point, the aspect of new opportunities, but of course also that the workplace is changing, and how concretely the workplace is changing. Steve, you showed in the report with introducing to us AI systems that are used by the employer. You now made in your presentation the example of Salesforce. I would like to know if the impacts and challenges that you now presented in context with Salesforce, would you say that it's that it's in general representative for AI systems? Or in your report, have you seen also other problems with other systems?
Yeah, thanks very much. I think, broadly speaking, I think the issues at a certain level of abstraction anyway are the same across the AI systems, at least the ones that I looked at. So I look at another case in some detail in the report, looking at warehouse work, and again, how software, algorithmic and AI-based management software is used to quite intensively surveil warehouse workers, to direct them to the next job, to monitor their, it's a far more physical kind of monitoring in warehouse work involving wearable devices, heat maps, cameras, et cetera, to direct and guide workers around the shop floor. So I think that although clearly there are big differences between different kinds of workplaces, I think in general the intent on the side of developers and also managers is broadly similar. It's to find ways to speed up labor. It's to find more granular ways of, well, first of all, to be able to quantify and metricize labor, to break it down into measurable tasks, and then to be able to do what I would call at least invidious comparison between workers, to start to rank and compare the performance of individual workers in order to try to identify supposedly weaker performers and then to make interventions based upon those metrics. Whether all that works, I think, is a really important question that's somewhat separate from whether it's happening or not. And I would say, broadly speaking, those similar kinds of trends are happening across quite varied kinds of workplaces.
Thank you, Steve. Now, Giovanni, now after listening to all these inputs and statements from Marta and Steve, are you surprised by the results? For example, that only a few trade unions currently have a collective bargaining agreement on AI, or that the AI-related topics, if there's agreement, are most likely data protection and workers' privacy? So does this align with your work experience?
Ja, ich will das vielleicht mal so beantworten, und zwar nicht direkt aus meinem Unternehmen, sondern an 2 Beispielen. Ich war, nachdem ChatGPT die große Welle, sage ich mal, gemacht hat, hatte ich die Möglichkeit, hier in Berlin an einer Veranstaltung teilzunehmen vom Humboldt-Institut. Da ging es darum, Einfluss von ChatGPT in der Lehre. Die Frage war, brauchen wir in Zukunft Hausarbeiten? Wenn alle doch mit KI arbeiten. Also ihr wisst, wie destruktiv das sein kann. Und das andere ist, ihr wisst vielleicht, dass die amerikanische Vereinigung Gewerkschaft von Schauspielern über 180 Tage gestreikt haben, und die waren eigentlich sehr früh schon bei den Tarifergebnissen, was Gehalt angeht. Die haben darüber gestritten, was bedeutet das, wenn ich komplett gefilmt werde als Schauspieler, meine Stimme, und sie wird weiterverarbeitet. Also das soll mal zeigen, wie disruptiv diese Technologie ist. Und deswegen ist das ein Weckruf auch für Betriebsräte, die vielleicht meinen, sie sind ja nicht so technisch, nicht alle sind so technisch involviert, haben auch vielleicht nicht Informatik oder Mathematik studiert. Nichtsdestotrotz, es geht gar nicht um Nullen und Einsen, das sage ich immer auch mit Thema IT-Mitbestimmung. Es geht um die Auswirkungen. Und deswegen sind wir in der Pflicht, jetzt das zu gestalten, denn sonst werden wir gestaltet. Das heißt, wir entscheiden, wie die Arbeitswelt der Zukunft aussieht. Und deswegen sollten wir alle Möglichkeiten nutzen, um sich dem Thema zu nähern. Und auch das ist im Grunde auch kein Hexenwerk, wenn man sich ein wenig damit befasst.
Danke, thank you, Giovanni. So I think you made two important points. The authors' strike, of course, in Hollywood, which is a great example of how to regulate the use of generative AI in the working context, and of course that now we have to shape the future of work. Otherwise, it will be shaped by others. So I'm looking now again in the crowd if there's any question, and I see one question, please.
Yeah. This one's for Rolf. Thank you very much for the detailed slides of Salesforce there that gave exactly how these kinds of things can work. And I wanted to know if in the study there's any aspect that was looked into about the level of transparency of the kinds of algorithms that are used, not like in an academic sense, so stepping away from like the fanciest, newest ones that might be impossible or difficult to understand, but more prosaic ones where academically we could know everything about how it works, but proprietary reasons might make it so that there's difficulties with transparency of those, so that they can reach a level where good agreements could be made on them. Was that a clear enough question? Or
yeah. Should I respond? Or?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Interesting question. I think, broadly speaking, you're right to identify the distinction between the sort of newer stuff and more well-established sort of patterns of algorithmic management. And the interesting thing reading, I mean, there's not so much interesting about it, but one of the interesting things of reading through Salesforce user manuals is that you discover that the software is actually quite customizable if managers want to learn how to do it. Now, it's impossible to know, but my hunch is most don't really. I guess the larger up the corporate hierarchy you get, if you're getting into really big users of Salesforce, then there'll be in-house capacity to be able to spend time figuring out how these things work. Reconfiguring algorithms around the particular KPIs that you're interested in, et cetera, et cetera. I guess for smaller firms, or medium-sized firms, there will just be less capacity to spend time doing something like that, and you're more prepared to use off-the-shelf software. In which case, it's quite possible, even at that point, that managers won't be very clear on what exactly is going on when particular algorithmic calculations and directions are being made. And then secondly, there's the whole separate issue that lots of the stuff that's now being integrated into these sort of enterprise software packages is third party. So, it can be lots of tie-ups, for example, with OpenAI to use ChatGPT enterprise software, either as a whole or parts of it to support parts of this kind of stuff. So obviously there's limited transparency even for the CRM or ERP software provider that's having to license software from OpenAI or Anthropic or whichever firm that they have a deal with, because there's commercial reasons on that side why they don't want algorithmic visibility to be absolute for their customers for commercial reasons too. So yeah, I think multiple barriers along the way, and then of course if you're a worker, you're obviously at the bottom of the informational hierarchy. So unless you figure out ways to collectively bargain over this, then the chances of you knowing anything at all really about what the algorithms that are being used to manage your day-to-day work, to monitor you, to evaluate your performance, and then to guide you and to ultimately potentially fire you if you don't perform well enough, are just almost completely invisible. So I think we're still quite, despite the good work that people like Giovanni and others have been doing, we're still pretty far down the sort of path of algorithmic transparency and seeing exactly what these things are and how they're being used.
Thank you, Steve. Since you mentioned Giovanni, do you want to add something?
Ja, also ich möchte das an dem Beispiel vorstellen. Ich hatte vor Jahren schon eine Vereinbarung für eine Pilotierung von einem Unternehmen, das wollte durch das Matching der historischen Daten im Telefon, ich komme ja aus der Telekom als Service, also wenn ihr ein Problem mit Telekom habt, dann könnt ihr natürlich unsere Kollegen erreichen. Und die Historie, welcher Kollege mit welchen Kundentypen erfolgreich in der Vermarktung war, das war deren Geschäftsziel. Und schon damals haben wir darüber gesprochen, wir müssen eben wissen, wie die Maschine funktioniert. Also die Frage war ja nach dem Algorithmus. Am Ende des Tages, wenn das selbstlernend ist, dann ist es eine mathematische Formel, die sich täglich ändert. Also sage ich meinen Kollegen, wir sind nicht die besseren Mathematiker, aber wir müssen wissen, welche Daten vorne reinkommen, und wir müssen hinten prüfen, ob die Maschine immer so funktioniert, wie wir es geregelt haben. Das heißt, wir müssen mehr evaluieren, wir müssen mehr begleiten und immer wieder prüfen, dass entsprechend der Algorithmus so funktioniert, wie wir es auch gemeinsam vereinbart haben. Beim Thema Eightful, bei diesem Matching der Lebensläufe etc., da haben wir festgelegt, dass nur 4 Relevanzen überhaupt für das Matching erlaubt sind. Denn sonst könnte man nach alles Mögliche suchen, ne? Nach Alter, Geschlecht und sonst. Das spielt beim Matching keine Rolle, sondern erst in einem weiteren Prozess. Von daher, das wäre so meine Antwort aus der Praxis. Ja, der Algorithmus, der auch ein Geschäftsgeheimnis teilweise ist von den Unternehmen. Von daher kann man aber trotzdem daran gehen, indem man sie sehr, sehr reglementiert und immer wieder evaluiert.
Thank you, Giovanni. I mean, I think many of us were already in touch with the call center of Telecom and can relate to this. So, important point that it's important to also make sure that the algorithm is used in the way that it was agreed on. And so we are now almost at the end of our session. Is there any other question? Yes, please.
Der Herr da hinten und dann Sie. Und noch so. Okay.
My question is for Giovanni. Since you have a now AI expert committee in your workplace, I would like to know, since a lot of the software that the employer would like to use would be closed source software, and the Works Council or any expert will not know how the AI is being incorporated within these software. So how do you do your risk assessment? And also another question is, since the AI experts are from the employer's side, how do you know that they're not biased towards the employer's benefits?
Ja, Folgendes. In dem KI-Expertenkreis haben wir natürlich mehrere Kompetenzen. Das ist immer die Voraussetzung. Des Weiteren ist es so, dass jetzt muss ich kurz nochmal rekapitulieren, was du gerade gesagt hast, ist mir gerade entwischt. Achso, die Sicherheit, wie wir sicher gehen, dass wir da genügend Informationen haben. Folgendes, jetzt fehlt mir der Satz. Kannst du einen kurzen Satz wiederholen?
Can you repeat the question maybe in one sentence?
The software that is being
included, okay. Ja. Ich habe dich jetzt ist es schon bei mir angekommen. Also Beispiel Microsoft, Copilot. Ja, ist jetzt überall, wird es angeboten. Microsoft nutzt jeder von uns. Ja, und Copilot nutzt natürlich auch künstliche Intelligenz. Ich kann Copilot fragen, stell mir einfach mal zusammen, mit wem ich E-Mail-Verkehr habe. Ich könnte auch die Frage stellen, wie oft, wie ist die Response? Und dann sind wir schon in dem Bereich, dass man dann schon eine Art Profiling machen kann. Deswegen muss man sich dann mit dieser KI-Anwendung auch, auseinandersetzen. Auch wenn sie im Paket ist mit dem Betriebssystem oder mit den Office-Programmen. Das ist ein Beispiel, wo dann also KI jetzt mittlerweile überall eingeführt wird. Und da geht es darum, der zweite Punkt ist, wir haben bei der Telekom einen Datenschutz- und IT-Sicherheitsprozess, der durchlaufen werden muss. Und da muss die Fachseite, das Projekt angeben, dass es sich um eine KI-Anwendung handelt. Und daraus entsteht dann noch ein sogenanntes Digital Ethics Assessment, dass da auch noch der Fachbereich Fragen beantworten kann zum Thema KI. Und diese Informationen sind wichtig, damit wir das auch in den Risikoklassen einstufen können.
Thank you, Giovanni. I'm now looking at the organizers. If we can take one more question. Oh, okay, perfect. That's the advantage of the last session. Everyone is tired, but at least we have more time. So, if there's any, I saw that there was one more question or two.
Here and there, yes.
Two more questions. Maybe we can take them.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question to Giovanni. When we've seen the presentation of Salesforce, where individual people are measured, analyzed in their behavior, in their social relationships, in their emails, this would qualify maybe in telecom as a illegal software, illegal AI tool that is not usable. And then I was quite surprised to see that Telecom is the partner to sell Salesforce in Germany. So is there a problem in the AI IT Works Council group, or is there a problem maybe that let's say we just copy the AI Act, but we are not enforcing it in a strong way? Because in a strong way, also with the legal steps that I've seen, you're not following German data protection law. You cannot measure single employee data, like how someone behaves, to whom he writes emails. If you do this, this is by federal labor court in Germany illegal. So meaning, would it mean that Telecom and maybe also the Works Council is a little bit generous in that sense, allowing maybe also maybe even illegal things if you would go for the real legal dispute, in the sense of facilitating the introduction of AI? Okay. Or did I may have a misinterpretation?
Ja, also vielleicht an der Stelle. Ich habe das Beispiel gebracht, was technisch möglich ist. Da ist die Frage, wie genau regeln wir dann diese Einführung? Und ja, wir haben glücklicherweise einmal den EU-Act und wir haben auch die EU-Datenschutzgrundverordnung. Wir haben auch das Mitbestimmungsrecht bei Beschäftigtendaten. Also von daher, Leistungsverhaltenskontrolle, denke ich, ist damit gemeint. Da geht es jetzt darum, ich mache ein Beispiel, was wir jetzt vor der KI hatten, Excel. Man kann Excel als Instrument freigeben in der Mitbestimmung. Es kommt aber darauf an, ob ich in der Excel-Tabelle personenbezogene Daten einfüge. Und deswegen haben wir eine weitere Regelung gefunden unter der Konzernbetriebsvereinbarung Digitale Zusammenarbeit, wo M365 geregelt ist, dass es eben dann als Tool zu sehen ist. Auch wenn auch Arbeitsgerichte meinen, Excel ist das Tool für sich. Wir sagen, sobald es personenbezogene Daten anzunehmen, sind die auf jeden Fall mitbestimmungspflichtig. Das heißt, dann werden wir gezielt entsprechende Regeln anzutreffen. Das wird auch bei Copilot der Fall sein. Das heißt, wir haben dort die Möglichkeit, wie bei Excel, dass man das unterschiedlich brauchen kann. Aber wir brauchen die Sicherheit, dass die Beschäftigten befähigt werden und genau wissen, was sie machen können. Und wenn sie eben was anderes wollen, dann müssen sie eben die Prozesse leben in der Mitbestimmung, damit dieses Tool dann auch behandelt wird. Wir brauchen in Zukunft eine stärkere Befähigung derjenigen, die diese Instrumente nutzen. Das gilt auch für ChatGPT zum Beispiel, weil die Texte, die dort vorgeschlagen werden, am Ende haftet der Arbeitgeber, aber nichtsdestotrotz, ich bin derjenige, der dann diesen Text gegebenenfalls in eine E-Mail oder in den Vertrag packe und muss da eben vorher die ganzen Rechte prüfen, wie Urheberrecht und Sonstiges, was ihr euch vorstellen könnt. Das bleibt bei der Verantwortung des Beschäftigten, auch wenn diese Assistenzsysteme, und die bleiben nur Assistenz, zugänglich sind. Ich hoffe, ich konnte ein bisschen antworten.
Maybe we need to quickly try to translate this, because I'm not sure if everybody understands. No, that's fine. I don't think that, so just very quickly, you gave the example of Excel, where you can regulate about the use purely of Excel, but the moment that you would put personal data of employees into the Excel sheet, this is where the need for code determination kicks in, basically. So it depends on how you use the tool. And the same for Copilot. Whenever maybe you had already an arrangement or an agreement around Microsoft Office package, but the moment you see that there's a new evolution, a new development of parts of that package, like Copilot, that has a big impact, that needs to be renegotiated. So there's a constant need for regular evaluation and monitoring, actually, of, we like to call it the life cycle of the AI system with all its components, basically. So I think that's more or less.
Thank you, Bert. And maybe one last question.
Hier vorne. Also, okay.
Is it on? Okay. My question would actually add on to yours, because I was wondering still how the Workers' Council can be informed and actually be prepared to assess how the tools work, if they are implemented in the way that they made decisions, and that there's still this imbalance between the employers and the Workers' Councils, and also what you mentioned, the independent opportunity to assess it. It's maybe also a question to Marta, if there are already approaches also by unions to address this knowledge gap, let's say, or imbalance.
Thank you. Marta, do you want to take this question?
I'm thinking, and based on the report, I would say we are rather looking, or the unions are rather trying to set the procedure, to make sure they have a foot in the door, so to say. But collective bargaining normally happens one step higher than at the Works Council level, where more details can be co-determined, as Giovanni was pointing this out. So in collective bargaining, it's much more general, and I see here a lot of complementarities with the work of Works Councils. Of course, we have to acknowledge country differences. Not all countries have a Works Council or a well-coordinated system between unions and Works Councils. So I would say there is quite a lot of maneuvering room. But what our research shows is that it's rather about setting up the role for trade unions in addressing these topics, but not yet going into too much detail.
Thank you, Marta. I know that there are more questions, but we have now to come to an end, to close the session. But I think it really shows that this topic is a really important topic and still needs to raise more awareness from research side, but also from trade unions to, because this topic will increase in importance. I think we can all agree on this. So I want to thank our speakers. Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Berta, of course.
Thank you, Oliver.
And I thank you. And I also
the tech
want
team and the interpreters.
Yeah, thank you to all the team behind, and also thank you to the audience. Also thank you for understanding and playing the game with switching a bit the languages. I hope it was not too confusing. So thanks a lot and have a good day.